Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to do my first ever craft beer review from Switzerland, so I'm really quite excited for this. This is what I always tell you I love about doing these reviews for you, when you're able to try some beer from a really random part of the world, or from a new part of the world I guess is a better way to say it. But for this one we are going to go to a place called Kyburg, which is a little bit to the northeast of Zurich in what I believe is the Baden region of Switzerland if I'm remembering correctly. And for this one we're doing my first review from Storm and Anchor. This beer is called the Sailor Grave. It comes in at 10.6% ABV and it's an Imperial Stout. Of course, I bought this one over at Kiosk in Copenhagen. This is the very first Swiss craft beer that I've ever seen, so I just had to buy this when I saw it. And it wasn't actually too expensive for a 10.6% Imperial Stout. I think I only paid 40 Danish crowns for this one, so about £5. About €4 or you know, €6, something like that. So for what this beer is, it was actually a really reasonable price, and I was expecting, with it coming from Switzerland of course, where they've got a very strong currency of things, I would have expected it to be a little bit more than that. But as I say, the main point is it's my first Swiss craft beer. I'm really excited to try this one, and I've heard that these guys are a really highly regarded brewery there, so I hope you guys watching in Switzerland enjoy my take on this one. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Storm and Anchor. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. I will make one for the Swiss beers that I can review, and hopefully I can add more videos to that in the near future. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. And do in particular let me know about some of the other Swiss craft breweries that I should check out. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Storm and Anchor Brewing Company then. So Storm and Anchor was founded back in 2011 by Tom Strickler, and it was originally based in an old farmhouse in the hamlet of Bielefeld in Switzerland, not too far from Zurich. So Tom is originally from Winterthur, and he had the idea of brewing beer when he lived in Australia, and while he was over there he was seeing that people were just sick of the big beer companies dominating the market and just pumping out the fizzy yellow stuff basically. It's the common start-up story for many craft breweries. But upon his return to Switzerland, he began to homebrew, and he did so for about 10 years, experimenting with lots of different hops, malts and adding other things into the beer, of course, before he started up his own brewery with the help of some patrons. Some of the patrons apparently were from Denmark, some of them were from Chicago over in America as well, so he had quite a little bit of help setting up this brewery, which was pretty cool actually. And as a result of this, you do find the beers over in America, you find them in Denmark, which is obviously the reason that I got this one in Kiosk, of course. But yeah, and it's kind of interesting. So they started up in a small farmhouse in Bielefeld, as I said, and then in 2015 Tom decided to convert the company into being a gypsy brewery. So as a result of this, he does many different collaborations. From what I understand, they don't have a core range of beers as such. I've seen various different versions of this one. They seem to change it slightly every year, and I'm not sure exactly what year this beer is from. It may be the 2017 edition, or it may be the 2016. It might have been brought into Copenhagen for the beer festival. Regardless, I'm sure it will be a pretty damn good beer. So I'm looking forward to this one, and as I say, I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. But that's all you need to know about the brewery just now. I'll put the website in the description for you below, and you can check that out for yourself. But yeah, it should be a really nice one. So the hops and things in this beer, as I said to you, it's a 10.6% Imperial Stout. The malt base in this one is Vienna, Carafa, Caramunic and roasted barley, and the hop is Chinook. And it also says on the side here that they've added some candied sugar and vanilla to this one, so it should be a really quite interesting beer, this one. I'll just like have a little look at the artwork of this before we open it up. Really quite nicely presented, this one. I like how the artwork on this comes across, the skeleton coming out of the sea. There you can see the Stone and Anchor bottle cap on this one. That's really quite nicely presented, and this beer is quite fitting. I've actually been watching the series on Netflix, the Black Sail, so it is kind of cool to be able to review a beer that's kind of pirate themed for you while I'm doing that. And I did actually see a picture of Tom in in one of the newspapers that I was reading, the Swiss newspaper, and it was kind of funny because he reminded me of a few of the guys that I was seeing in that series. He actually did have a bit of a pirate look about him with his little beard and things, which was kind of funny. But yeah, he seems to be a very, very talented brewer. So yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from an Imperial Stout, this guy has poured a really kind of dark ebony rosewood colour. It actually looks really, really nice. So you can smell some of the vanilla and the red fruit coming off this beer as well. So if I hold it up to the light, it does have a little bit of a ruby edge to it. Maybe it's more of a kind of chestnutty colour, I would say, than anything. When I hold it up to the light, I'm getting a little bit of a chestnut colour. You can see there's a solid 2.5 finger of a frothy beigey tan head on this one. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. There's just one or two tiny little bits of sediment floating around in the glass with this one, but you know, it looks exactly as you would expect from an Imperial Stout, and you can really get this lovely kind of vanilla and sort of chocolatey and red fruity note coming out of this one. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. So yeah, when you go in a little bit more closely to it, you start to get these kind of roasted black malts. You can smell a little bit of a it's not quite coffee, it doesn't quite have the smoothness and the sort of earthy floral character that you can get from the coffee. There's almost a little bit of a kind of smoky, meaty kind of thing coming out of this. There is a little bit of an almost meaty character in there as well, which is quite interesting. Definitely some kind of toasted brown sugars. Yeah, definitely some toasted brown sugars in there. Kind of treacle molasses sort of thing. That mixes quite interestingly with the sort of smoky character that the beer has. So really just interesting aroma this. I'm not getting, there's a little tiny bit of chocolate, but I'm not getting too much chocolate out of this one, which is kind of surprising. There's definitely a big vanilla presence. You can pick out a little bit of a woody, kind of nutty undertone to the beer as well. There's quite a lot going on in the aroma of this one. As I always say, just take a little bit of time and mull over the aroma before you actually taste the beer. That's half the experience when it comes to whiskey, sake, craft beer, wine and all of these sorts of things. But yeah, it smells really nice. There's a good bit of earthiness from the hop in there. Like I said, there's a little bit of a red fruity character to this one as well. To me, it has a little bit of the sharpness you'd expect from raisins, but it does have a little bit of that lighter note you'd expect of kind of candied fruit or raisins or something like this. But definitely, it smells like a really nice beer. There's almost a little bit of a bready base to this as well, but really the aroma's leaning towards the roasty side of things. The vanilla's definitely coming out quite strongly. The earthy hop and some of that red fruit, for me, those are the most kind of prominent notes, but there are other things in there too. You can see the head, of course, has just settled down to be a kind of one finger head now, and it's a little bit more foamy than it was before. It was a little bit more bubbly before, but yeah, this one should be a really nice beer. So this one is the Sailor Grave from Storm and Anchor Brewing Company, based near Zurich, a Swiss gypsy brewery, I should point out, 10.6% ABV. So let's get stuck into this beer. Slange Ska. Yeah, that's a pretty damn good beer. You know, and this is the thing that I always comment on when I try a beer from a new country, if you like. The standard of craft beer that's going around all across Europe these days, and even, you know, out in places like Japan, I've discovered it, in Brazil and stuff like that, Australia, New Zealand as well. The standard of craft beer that's getting put out by some of these breweries is really cool, and it is awesome to see that in places that aren't quite as well known for craft beer, there are some really awesome things going on. So I can see why, I guess, this brewery is really highly, just on the basis of this beer, you can see why they are really highly regarded in Switzerland. But yeah, this is really quite nice. It's very easy drinking as well. You do get a little bit of the booziness out of it, but overall, it's a really quite easy drinking beer, this one. I really do like how this comes across. So yeah, as I always say, with these darker beers, sugar the beer around your palate a little bit and let your whole mouth adjust to it before you start examining the flavour too much. So with this one, you can feel a little bit of that roasted kind of black malty character just underpinning the beer, but on top of that, there's a lot of stuff going on. There is a bready element to it, and I suspect that's the Vienna malt. I always remember the Vienna malt having this kind of sweet, brown bready character to it, and you can definitely detect some of that just kind of underpinning this beer as well. It just sits on top of that roasted black malt character, and you can feel it as you progress further into the aftertaste. You can feel a little bit of that sweetness in there, just suppressing the kind of roasted bitter aspects to this one. And yeah, there's definitely that sort of brown sugary element coming out from the Cara Munich as well. There's a little bit of a biscuity element to it as well. You can feel that sort of slightly grainy, biscuity, caramelly sweetness in there. The caramel to me in this one, or the sort of brown sugars, is a bit lighter. It doesn't quite have the same darkness that you'd normally expect from the kind of treacle molasses sort of thing. It's not quite as big in brown sugars, this beer, I would say. There is a little bit of chocolate in there, but not all that much. The vanilla for me is what's given this beer the sweetness mainly. And you can, as your mouth adjusts more and more to the beer, there is, right in the middle of the palate, you can detect this very slightly kind of almost spicy, woody character. You can just feel that in the middle of your tongue, and maybe there's a little bit of nuttiness to it as well. And that mixy, the nutty characters in particular, mix well with the vanilla. There's a lot of stuff going on in the middle of your palate on this one, so just pay attention to that area in particular, because there's just lots of stuff going on there, and it's a really lovely beer. That's the way to kind of sum up the malt base on this. It makes the beer really, really nice. Yeah, that's a really, really good beer. There's no doubts about that. On the basis of this one, I certainly want to try some of the other things from Storm and Anchor. They've done a really good job with this. It does have a little bit of booziness to it, but you would never guess that it's 10.6%. A few of these would certainly knock you out, but by no means is this a beer that you're going to do with as a session beer. The other thing that's quite interesting about this one, when I think about it, as I said, the aroma had this very slightly meaty, smoky character to it. I'm not really getting any of that in the flavour of this one, which is quite interesting. As I say, it's more of a kind of roasted black malt character. There's maybe a little bit of ashiness to it as well. But I'm not really getting that sort of meaty smokiness that I was quite expecting from this one. But to sum it up, this is a pretty damn awesome beer, so big thumbs up to Storm and Anchor for this one. They've done a great job. In terms of the hoppy side of this beer, it's interesting because, like I said, they've only used Chinook in this one, but there's a lot, to me, I'm getting a lot of earthiness in the back corner of my palate, and usually the Chinook, I always find the Chinook to be a big kind of pine resinous and grapefruit hop. Obviously that changes depending on what malt base and stuff you use it with, because you get different, you substitute the grapefruit for red fruit and things like that in terms of the flavour. But the way that there's a bit of earthy character in the back corner of the palate is quite interesting. You can feel the earthiness just smooth out along the sides of your palate as you come forward, and there's maybe just a little bit of grassiness coming out around the front curve of the tongue there. And then if you just go behind that front curve of the palate, that's where I always see you get this little oily bubble where the nice juicy fruity esters come out of the beer. And for me, it's more of a kind of candied red sugar element that's coming out of this one. It's more a kind of, it reminds me of these little heart-shaped sweets that you get in the Haribo Star Mix. The flavour in this one, it's a sort of candied red fruit flavour to this one. That's rather than being sort of sharp or raisiny and plummy. There's maybe a little bit of a figgy element to it as well, but mainly it's a kind of candied red fruit flavour that I'm getting out of this one. But it fascinates me how with hops, when you put them into a darker malt base like this, you just get a completely different kind of flavour profile from them. That's something that really interests me about brewing. But to sum up this beer, it really is very, very nice. You know, this is the sort of, for me, this is a taster beer. There's no way you're going to session an Imperial Stout like this. You could pair this one quite nicely with, say, you know, a nice bit of charred meat or something like that, roasted meat, or you could pair it with like vanilla ice cream. I think with the vanilla element that this beer has, it would go really nicely as a dessert beer with like some chocolate cake, vanilla ice cream, or something like this. That's what I think this beer would go really, really well with. But it's nice. Onto the mouthfeel of the beer then. With this one, I would say this beer is mid-bodied. It's not quite as heavy as some of the Imperial Stouts that I've come across before. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's more of an oily mouthfeel I'm getting out of this one than a creamy one, I would say. There is a little element of the creaminess to it, but mainly to me it seems like more of an oily mouthfeel. The malt base is quite smooth. There's a little bit of bitterness there. As the flavour progresses, you get more roasty, bitter characters to it. Some nice hoppy bitterness there. Nice little bit of smoothness. There's a little bit of juicy, fruity character as well, but really it's just very well balanced. You've got a good balance between the bitterness and the sweetness in the malt base. The hops have just got a nice little bit of bitterness in the back, then they smooth out as you come further forward, and a little bit of juicy, fruity character as well. So overall, the best way to sum this up is that it's a really, really nice beer, and if you get the chance to try this one, I highly recommend that you do. On the basis of this, I would certainly want to try some of the other beers from Storm and Anchor. I can't tell you if this is the best beer that they do or anything like that, but what I can tell you is that on its own, this is a pretty damn good beer, and like I said, it's very cool to see that Switzerland has some really high quality craft breweries as well. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below if you've tried it before. Do let me know what your favourite beers are from Storm and Anchor. Hopefully I can review some more of them for you on the channel, and do let me know some other Swiss craft breweries that I should check out as well, and hopefully I can find them when I go over to Copenhagen next. But it's been really cool to do my first Swiss craft beer review for you, and hopefully it's not the last. So until the next time, slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out some of the Storm and Anchor beers if you come across them. This one, the Sailor Grave, was pretty damn good, so make sure you check it out if you like a nice big kind of vanilla Imperial stout with a bit of roasty character. Until the next time, it's slange just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Cheers.